So, Steve, we now have 9 full-on retail Nintendo Switch 2 editions, and these are not all equal. We definitely have a lot to say about some of them. So, I was wondering if you'd be interested in ranking them with me.
I absolutely am. This is going to be an interesting discussion because I think some of these are going to go quite a bit higher than I may have thought, but given the full image of all 9, I think that there are some that are so low that they kind of raise my opinion of others.
There's a lot to discuss here because they're not all priced the same. They don't all do the same thing. Some of them are just technical bumps. But let's go ahead with it. And I think the most interesting one to begin with is the newest one. Super Mario Bros. Wonder Nintendo Switch 2 Edition plus Meetup in Bella Bell Park. The titles of none. There's not a single good title among these, by the way. But this is maybe the worst.
Not. You know, this is going to sound nuts, and some people may come for me in the comments. I think this is the best one so far. So I'd have to say that just given that it's the absolute best, I'm going to have to put it in the S tier.
Okay, I agree. So every other Switch 2 edition here caps out at 1440p. Some of them are lower than that. This is the only native 4K one. Like, it's native 4K rendering, no DLSS, no AI, just pure 4K, which is great. 120 FPS would have been nice, but it is what it is. As for the new content, I think this is really what sets this one apart. There's single-player stuff, but the multiplayer is vast. And you and me, Daniel, are playing this very recently. There's 2 sides to this. There's the online multiplayer, which has its own pool of games. And then there's the local multiplayer, which has its own pool of games. And there are so many different modes. A bunch of them have variants, and then there's maps to all of them too. So there's like a coin battle. There's one where it's like almost like Mario Brothers Wii U, where you draw blocks under the player. There's one with Captain Toad as a bird. There's so many different ones. But if you have, if you use Game Share, you can then play the local-only ones online as well, and then play the full game in its local state online, and interact with others online while also game-sharing locally. It's a whole web of things, but there's a lot of content in here. So much that I think it gives Mario Wonder the legs that it never really had.
Yeah, the multiplayer is a much bigger addition than I was expecting it to be. I got to preview this a while back, and I really enjoyed what I played, but I thought like, oh, it'll be kind of like Mario Party plus Jamboree TV, where the additions will kind of wear thin pretty quickly. But this one, I mean, one, you get a lot of single player stuff too. You get, a bunch of new boss fights with the Koopalings. Then you get 74 training challenges, which will really test your expertise in terms of platforming. And that's kind of just the icing on the cake. The real attraction, like you said, is Bella Bell Park and the multiplayer. And again, when I saw that it was split out into like local multiplayer and online, I was like, great, that's going to make it difficult for me to play these. But in reality, like you said, the addition of Game Share, and we got to be clear on this because there's 2 flavors of Game Share. You have local and online Game Share, and both of those work to play the local games. Because we played the local games, with you in the UK and me at home. And it worked perfectly. It worked as perfectly as Game Share can. There was a substantial amount of lag for Daniel and I because we're physically quite far away. But even then, those games were playable. They were hilarious in some instances because Daniel and I had to account for the lag while jumping and moving. But it worked, and it gave us access to, gosh, I don't think I'm even kidding when I say like at least 100 micro games or mini games.
It's so many. Like the 10 surrounding I haven't counted them all, but there's so many of them. And then a lot of them just have 3 variants, and then all those maps. You're just playing everything is going to take you a long time. But that's, of course, not what you do in multiplayer. You don't just play it once and then move on. You play them all over and over again. And like growing up, I have really fond memories of like Mario versus Luigi from New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, or like You versus Boo in Super Mario Bros. Deluxe for Game Boy Color. And like when watching trailers for Bella Bell Park, I was like, this doesn't seem that interesting. But it's recaptured that feeling. It's just that fun of making Mario something more than just platforming around levels. It's just this party nature. And it's full of care too. Like there's some really cool animations in there. One of the coin battle variants has like King Boo in the background, who like if if he catches you, you get stuck and you like lose all your coins. And there's some really expressive animations just specifically to that mode. It's full of that stuff. This is amongst the most pricey of the Switch 2 editions, but it's hard to argue that it doesn't earn it. There's so much in there.
Right. This is one of those ones where Nintendo is charging you basically for the game and for the DLC as part of the Switch 2 edition. That seems to be kind of the route they go. If you see a plus in the name, it's going to be one of the most expensive ones. But realistically here, and I keep coming back to this, this is one of those games where I don't have to pay that price like 3 or 4 times to be able to play with my whole family. And that's huge. Like if I can just start up Game Share and play it with my kids, my wife, and everybody else in the house, like that is a massive cost savings for me, because my kids love Mario Wonder, but I don't want to pay, the $20 or $30 Switch 2 upgrade fee for each copy that we have. Instead, I can just say, hey, hop on Game Share with me, and we'll all just play it together. And one thing I pointed out is that online there was quite a bit of lag. That doesn't exist with local. Yeah. With local, it is as quick as can be. In fact, I beat all of the Koopalings with my kids, and they never once complained that they were struggling to control or about video quality or anything. They just played it like it was running on their own Switches, and we had a great time with it.
Mm-hmm. I think the one downside to Mario Wonder Switch 2 edition as a package, it's one thing that confuses me, is assist mode is here. Whereas it isn't just in the Switch 1 version. And this isn't like an upgrade. This isn't something only Switch 2 could do. That should have just been a free upgrade to everybody. And it's annoying because my daughter plays on her Switch 1 and now she wants to play on my Switch 2 because that's where assist mode is. And it's like, why is that there? Why did they do it that way? Otherwise, though, I have nothing to complain about. I love this upgrade.
Yeah, wonderful upgrade. And like you said, native 4K, which is not something we're used to on the Switch 2 currently. So it's really cool. I don't think that I have anything to really complain about on this one either, which is why it's all the way up at the top.
Yeah. Well, to flip the coin around, let's talk about Super Mario Party Jamboree Nintendo Switch 2 Edition plus Jamboree TV. How do you feel about that one?
There is another one in this list. So I'm going to say this one's a C, not a D. Okay. And I think a few months ago I would have put this in a D.
Right. So what about this is putting it lower for you?
Well, for Mario Party is all about like the breadth of mini games and the selection on offer, and a Switch 2 edition of any game I think should really highlight what the upgrade was for. But instead they added the Plus, which one makes it more expensive, and two, like many other Plus games, separates out the new content. So. And in a game like Mario Party, that is antithetical to the idea of Mario Party itself. I don't want to have like all the Switch 2 stuff gated off into a separate area. I just wanted it to be homogenous with the rest of the game. Like when I thought that there was going to be a Mario Party update for the Switch 2, I anticipated new boards, new mini games, and all of that kind of being mixed together into the standard Mario Party formula. Like, it'd be one thing if it was just like, hey, if you want to play the Switch 2 games, you have to play on the Switch 2 board. But instead, you get this hokey Jamboree TV gimmick that just kind of mixes it all up and puts it in one space where it's not even really Mario Party anymore. It's just like a series of tech demos that do Switch 2 stuff. And none of it is really fun enough to carry the price of the upgrade on its own. Like, it just feels kind of pointless.
It's a whole expansion about the most tacked-on parts of modern Mario Party. It's like both Super Mario Party and Super Mario Party Jamboree, they've got the core mode, and then they just surround it with a bunch of extra games, which I think are just to put on the back of the box, that we've got like 7 different modes you can play. But in reality, you don't want to touch any of the other ones. In Jamboree, I've not played anything apart from the core mode and that triathlon mode, because I just have no interest to. And this is an expansion where it's just like, we've got another one of them. It's like, put that effort into the boards or something. I don't want that stuff. So I didn't even buy this one. This is the only Switch 2 edition I have not played. So I'll leave you to have your word on this. But
yeah,
I'm not interested.
I bought this one, and I bought it because again, a long time ago now at the Switch 2 preview event, Brandon and I played this, and we're like, but they handed us a very carefully curated set of mini games to play. And I was like, well, if it's more of this is great. But we were, and I know you've done Nintendo previews too. You only know what they tell you.
Yeah.
You don't get to like explore menus or look at things. It's just, here's exactly what you're going to look at. And if you go off the beaten path, the demo is over. And so I bought this thinking that there would be more to it, and there just absolutely was not. It, like you said, it's the worst parts of modern Mario Party. You just get these mini games that realistically, had they been added to the rotation on the existing boards, I would have been delighted. Mm-hmm. But the fact that you have to go to a separate mode just to play them just feels unnecessary. Like, there are some cool things like the wind up car where you use mouse mode, and you can feel the Joy-Con pull back on it. These are cool ideas on their own. They're not worthy of being an entirely separate mode though.
No.
And I think that's where Nintendo has a huge miss here. So this is one that I picked up, and even my kids, like, I thought we'd play it together. They had no interest. So I think Nintendo just lost their audience with this one. It's unfortunate, and hopefully the next Mario Party is not built in this way. Like, I find this kind of methodology of gating off new features in Switch 2 editions to be incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, it is very frustrating. With Mario Wonder, to its credit as well, it does gate off the standard Switch 1 edition just because online can't work between them. Because Switch 2 has Rosalina, Switch 2 has another power-up. So it makes sense, and it still has both, like, the full game in the Switch 2 and the Switch 1 edition. So even though there's that hurdle there, it doesn't affect anything in practice, really. Whereas this absolutely does. But let's go ahead to another one. And we've done two big expansion ones. I feel like we should just do a regular Switch 2 edition now. Let's go with things that are probably going to be the same. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which in practice have the same upgrades. How do you feel about these ones?
Ooh, this is an interesting one, because I do like them, but they also don't add a lot. They don't change a ton. Mm. And honestly, I would actually rate these two potentially differently. So let's go with Breath of the Wild first. I'm going to put Breath of the Wild at like a solid B tier, because it's 1440p, it's 60 FPS, which is great. Like, Breath of the Wild notoriously ran quite poorly. Like, it had performance issues, not enough to really hamper enjoyment of the game, but it was enough to be very noticeable in specific areas. And with Switch 2, all of that's gone. Then on top of that, they add the Zelda notes, but the Zelda notes is done in the Switch app, which I've never been a fan of, like, having to have my phone up and open while I play a game.
It's cumbersome, yeah.
Yeah. It's basically this generation's version of, like, when Nintendo first tried to get us to use our phones for voice chat. Yeah. It's just not exactly the ideal way to play a game, so I don't end up interacting with them. And they added a whole lot of stuff in the phone app. Like, you can trade items, you can move things, but again, these all feel kind of superfluous to the experience. So for me, the key takeaway is the improved visuals and frame rate.
I don't care for the trading item stuff. I think Breath of the Wild's a game about using what you have. I don't think you should have the freedom to get what you want. You just get what you're given. Tears of the Kingdom, there's a bit more merit to it there, which we'll talk about in a second. But to give Zelda Notes a bit more credit, between Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, there's 2 hours of new voice acting. And just combining it all, there's 2 hours of voice acting, which is more than what the games have in their entirety. So there's a lot of effort and production put into them. It's just a shame that it's in the phone app.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that I dislike the content itself. It's just the presentation of the content. Like, if they did, if they did the meme and they gave us like the just Zelda interjecting with things, like during the gameplay, and it was an option, obviously, that you could turn off or on, I think that would have made it much more palatable. Like, I would have loved to see them, even if it was like the Sheikah Slate would be like, hey, you have a new note for this location. Do you want to check it out or something? I think that would have been preferable to having it on the phone. I still think it is cool that they had the voice talent come back and do, like you said, hours of new content.
Yeah.
And it is additive, which is why this is at a B. Because I think without it, it would be, gosh, no. It
wouldn't be on the level of Mario Party. I guess it doesn't add anything, but it it's much more noticeable performance. Like taking a
Right.
30 FPS game and making it 60 is transformative.
Yes.
Whereas with
I
Mario Party,
agree
it's
with
like this
that.
just looks like clearer Mario Party.
And it is at, a much higher resolution too. Like
Yeah.
it's easy to notice the resolution bump in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom as well.
Yeah.
Which leads me to Tears of the Kingdom, which I want to put at an A tier. And the reason why is because Tears of the Kingdom ran worse than Breath of the Wild. And while there are some double buffer VSync issues in Tears of the Kingdom where it drops to 30 every now and then, it is 60 the vast majority of the time at that same 1440p. And you have the item trading, which actually is much more helpful here.
Yeah. I was going to say
because-
specifically because you can trade the builds that you make.
Yep.
Which is that is something that Tears of the Kingdom should have always had. So you go on socials and you see these people making like mechs and dragons and all this stuff. It's like that's so cool, but it's always just isolated to their game. Like I don't need to be trading shields and swords. That's stuff I can find. But it is like genuinely cool to share your creation, stuff that you like specifically make.
Oh yeah, I saw somebody recreated an actual Lamborghini within the game, and they just shared the QR code, and I was like, that's cool, because I would never, even with a guide, I would never go through the effort of putting that together. But if I have the auto build thing, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And so it is a huge change to the game, like you said, something that should have been there and absolutely could have been there on the Switch 1. There's nothing that, this isn't like the Switch 2 horsepower helped this out. So there are just objectively better design choices here that help the game, and I think it benefits more from the improvements, in the hardware than Breath of the Wild 1 does. So yeah, I think this is just really great. It's like a solid example of what a technical update should be. It adds just a few things that improve the game, that add to quality of life, but it's also just an outstanding technical improvement as well.
Absolutely. Well, okay. Let's go on to Animal Crossing New Horizons Nintendo Switch 2 edition, which is a funny one because this came out the same day as a free update. And I think we do have to disregard that free update because that came to Nintendo Switch 1, that wasn't paid. It's not a Nintendo Switch 2 thing. So the merits that we judge this on are the microphone megaphone that you use your Switch 2 microphone for, 12-player online, so bumping up by 4. And they always say 4K, but it's actually just some image treatment. It's still 1080p and no frame rate boost either.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because I think had I not re-reviewed it recently, I would have put it higher. Since I've done the video and I actually had to dig into the technical performance of the update, I have to say, and it hurts me to do it, I have to put it down at a C. Only because if you're not counting the free 3.0 or 3.0, 3.0 update, then there's not a lot of meat on the bones here. And I know it's only $5, which is tough, but the free update adds so much compared to the specific Nintendo Switch 2 edition. And I think that there might be one thing in there for a player. Like for me, I kind of looked at this as it's $5, and in a way I'm supporting the release of the free update by buying this, which is why I got it. And for me, the mouse mode was like the one thing that I was like, I desperately want this. It's worth $5. But outside of that, there's really not a lot going on here. Like you said, 1080p in handheld mode on Switch 2 was part of the free update. It wasn't even part of the Switch 2 edition. And then in docked mode, we just got like, I think it was like MSAA or something that was doing the anti-aliasing to get it up to, to get it to look sharp. It's outputting at 4K, but it's internally rendering at 1080p. So you're not getting a ton for that $5. It comes down to, is there a marquee feature in there that you want? And if there is, great. But otherwise, all of the good stuff, all the things people really love about the Switch 2 edition, and I'm using big air quotes when I say that, is in the free update.
Yeah. I was really hoping they'll do stuff like removing the loading animations, because that does slow down the gameplay a lot, and Switch 2 probably can just like roam straight through them. So when you're going through a museum or something, you're still going through all those same load zones, which probably don't need to load as long as they do. And especially when it comes to online, like you've got 12 people in there now, but you've still got the issue of like every time someone joins, you've got to wait like a minute. Everyone's got to wait a minute, like every time someone joins, for them to come in. And so you end up sitting there to get like a full room of 12 people, like nearly quarter of an hour. And this is the kind of stuff which like that would have elevated this a lot if they had gone around and changed how that works, but they didn't.
Yeah, when I reviewed Animal Crossing in 2020 back on GX, I kind of wondered aloud in that video about how they would possibly get us to invest in another Animal Crossing, right? Unless you dramatically change something. But I think now in 2026, having again critically reanalyzed the game, I think about the fact that there's a lot now that you could do to get people really energized about a new Animal Crossing. And I think on some level, Nintendo knew like the very obvious things, like all the things you just mentioned would be better as a selling point for a new game than for like a $5 upgrade for the Switch 2 edition. I have to imagine they're like drop in, drop out multiplayer, getting rid of all the loading screens, streamlining dialogue. They know that we don't like these things. And I imagine now they've got enough that they're just saving it for whatever the next Animal Crossing game is.
Yeah, it's why we'll probably never get like a Mario Maker 2 Switch 2 edition, because they're just going to save that stuff for, a Mario Maker 3 or whatever. But I agree, like this is one of the lower ones. But let's keep moving on. We'll go with another safe-ish one, which is Pokemon Legends ZA, Nintendo Switch 2 edition. Doesn't do anything apart from higher resolution and higher frame rate. But prior to this, we had the free update for Scarlet and Violet, which already gave us the taste of what this kind of does. And it is pretty transformative for Pokemon to go from 30 to 60, especially in the case of Scarlet and Violet, which had big performance issues. ZA doesn't so much on Switch 1. So it's not as big of a jump, but it is still pretty nice playing this at 60.
Gosh, this one is tough for me because my gut says C, but I didn't find this to be disappointing. And unlike most other games on this list, I have no experience with the Switch 1 version of Pokemon Legends ZA. I just didn't even play it. I saw some footage and I was surprised by how good it looked and how well it ran. Which to me kind of just underscores that it's not like a giant upgrade, but like you said, 30 to 60 is big. That's a big improvement. Now let me ask you this, because this will be kind of the key to me deciding. Do you remember if the Switch 1 edition of ZA runs at 30 or 60 FPS?
It's 30. It just stays
30?
at 30. It's locked there.
All right, then I think that's a B. I feel like that's a B tier.
It's a B, but like note that it's next to Breath of the Wild and not ahead of Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild is a lot more.
Breath of the Wild to me would be like a B plus, where this would be just a flat B.
Yeah,
and I think that's the key, because that's what had me struggling was, do I put it next to Breath of the Wild, which I do think is quite the solid upgrade. Yeah, and this one, like you said, is pretty safe. It's down the middle. This is just technical stuff. It looks sharper and it runs smoother. And that's what I want from Switch 2 editions before the addition of any other stuff. So yeah, I'd say this one's pretty safe there in the B tier. I don't have a ton to say about Pokemon Legends ZA other than if you didn't play it, super enjoyable. You absolutely should.
Let's go with the last kind of safe-ish one. I say safe-ish. This one actually does a lot more than stuff like Breath of the Wild and Pokemon Legends. Metroid Prime 4. This is the only Nintendo game other than parts of Welcome Tour that has 120 hertz. It's got mouse support. They said 4K, it's 1440p. But you do have a lot of system-level technical showcases in here through a lot of its features. No new content, but it is kind of a technical showcase for the Switch 2, despite being a Switch 1 game.
I feel like for me, this one's an easy A.
Yeah.
120 FPS alone puts it up there, but then it looks incredible while it's in, because it's like 1080p 120. But the fact that we have a high action, fast paced shooter at 120 FPS on Switch 2 with mouse mode control, which feels so good.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's not like when you put the performance toggle in on some other games and instantly the visuals just get muddy and nasty to achieve that. It still looks reasonably good at 1080p 120. So I would say that, Retro just nailed the technical aspects of this game. Like it feels
it's
really
crazy
good.
that it runs on Switch 1 as well as it does. Like I think it's 720p 60 on there.
Yep.
Metroid Prime Remastered already looked great, so there's no doubt that this was going to run well. But the fact that it runs that well on Switch 1, and then Switch 2 just mega boosts it to look spectacular. And so that despite being a Switch 1 game, it's still one of the best looking Switch 2 games. And I had it so it's like 120 in handheld mode, which is 720p, and then 1440p 60 in TV. And that was like a really nice trade-off because you got these beautiful visuals on the TV. And then on the handheld where things are shrunk down, it just kind of feels better at 120. That was a really nice setup.
Yeah, I enjoyed the 1440p 60 mode as well. I used it primarily when I was going around like the big open desert area. It just made everything look a lot nicer. But this is a game where the art direction just shines. Like everything looks beautiful in this game. This was the first Switch 2 game that I played that I was like, wow, this feels like a real next gen experience. And like you said, it's nuts to remember that this is a Switch 1 game.
Yeah.
It just looks really amazing. And so I have to give them credit where it's due. They really nailed the assignment. This is kind of how I feel, Mario Wonder aside, like what the gold standard should be for a Switch 2 edition from a technical perspective. I think Mario Wonder goes a cut above my expectations, but this is where I'd like most Switch 2 editions to land. Not everything needs to be 120 FPS, but just the level of visual fidelity combined with the addition of features that show off what the Switch 2 hardware is capable of. When I see a Switch 2 edition, I want to be able to expect things like mouse mode controls where it makes sense. I want that to say you're going to get better visuals than you got on Switch 1, which certainly isn't the case for every game on this list. And I want it to kind of just say, you're going to get the most out of your console with this version.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's move on to our last two games. And these are both interesting. We'll start off with Kirby and the Forgotten Land plus Starry World. Is that what it's called? So this one is pretty transformative because Kirby and the Forgotten Land was 30 FPS on Switch 1, but it also had the caveat of anything being a little bit further than Kirby running at half rate. So it's a 30 FPS game with lots of 15 FPS things just everywhere. And this doubles everything. So the distance stuff isn't 60, it's 30 now, which is less distracting than 15. I wish it was all 60, but I think that's probably just an engine level thing. But Kirby himself is moving at 60, everything close to him is moving at 60, which is a huge upgrade for this game. Looks much nicer. And Forgotten Land always had this just beautiful style of like this dystopian, post-apocalyptic world. One of the most interesting Kirbys from an art style perspective. And it now runs pretty great. And then you got the expansion of the Starry World, which I think I would compare to like New Super Luigi U, where it just takes levels that exist already, but just sort of hacks them into something new. And they're pretty good ideas. They're not like Bella Bell Park level, but I think the performance upgrade here is one of the largest.
Yeah, I would put this one in the A tier for a number of reasons. I think that Kirby, like you said, the performance upgrades are pretty big here. Like going from 30 to 60 on its own is huge, but then that half rate rendering where you see the 15 FPS guys in the background, you're right that 30 is a lot less jarring. It's like they're moving enough to where, you're not really paying attention as much to those guys in the background, but when you see them moving at like cookie cutter animation of 15 FPS, your eye gets drawn to that. Where with 30, it's easier to ignore, even if it is still half the frame rate of what's going on in the foreground. On top of that, visually, this game looks a lot sharper. In the final boss in the original game on Switch 1, there were major frame rate issues, and those are just not really there on Switch 2. And that was the one moment. And first off, this is the first Kirby game I played all the way through. First one in my life that I ever finished.
Dang.
And I remember thinking, man, the final boss was a bit of a disappointment because it had major performance dips. And now that's just fine. It fixes my one major issue with the game. But on top of that, And it's Star-Crossed World DLC.
Oh,
We've
that's
been
it,
corrected in the
Star-Crossed
chat.
World.
Star-Crossed World is woven in a way that I wish more stuff was.
Yeah.
So, the same way Bell Park is now on the world map, Kirby does the same thing. Like, you go into levels and you can find the Star-Crossed World component within the existing levels. It's not just like, oh, on the start menu, I'm choosing it, which is something I really appreciate. So I think that Nintendo did a masterful job with this one. I like that the DLC is actually incorporated into the game proper and I don't have to just choose it from a menu. I really don't have very many complaints. Like you said, it doesn't reach the level that Bell Park does. I think Bell Park literally addresses any issues I had with Wonder while adding a ton of more content, where Kirby addresses the issues to an acceptable degree, one that I think is really good, but doesn't quite go above and beyond. Like, if this was native 4K, everything 60, I think it'd be an S tier.
Yeah. The new content is good, but I struggle to remember a lot of it looking back. I had fun with it, but it's very much this is more Forgotten Land rather than this is a new story expansion. Like, it has its own little story, but there's not much going on. I do like how, because it takes place in existing levels, you can sort of see the what the level used to be in the background, because it goes like in a different path. And so if you look into the vista, you can see elements of what the original level was looking like while you're going off in a new direction. That's really cool. But yeah, it's a really good upgrade, one of the best ones. And we have left a tier 3 for this is the Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, Nintendo Switch 2 Edition tier, which also has the dumbest name. And I mean, there's been a little bit of discourse about this one. Some people say they don't notice the problems. I frankly don't know how that is possible. In handheld mode specifically, it looks absolutely dreadful. In TV mode, it also looks pretty dreadful. This is another one where, like Animal Crossing, they haven't really changed the resolution at all. They say it's 4K, but it's still the same operating resolution. Even in handheld mode, it didn't seem like they boosted it. This seems like it's still 720. So if you're using boost mode, you're actually getting a not only clearer image, but a higher resolution image. The only saving grace is it runs at 60, which is nice, but there are
60,
so many trade-offs.
60 FPS is great, and by looking at this tier list, you'd think that was what we care about, because a lot of them that made it to the A tier are there because their frame rates were boosted significantly. But it has to be a combination of visual fidelity with that frame rate. Like, if you take the resolution down to 480p and you get it running at 60 FPS, I'm not going to want to play that because it's going to look terrible. But I think what's really damning to this one is you did a comparison between Switch 1 in boost mode and the Switch 2 edition, and the Switch 1 version in boost mode clearly looks better. It looks far better.
It's not like if you're putting them side by side, you can see the difference. It's like you can tell the difference playing it. It looks terrible. And this is a paid update as well. It came like weeks after the free Donkey Kong Country Returns update, which gave you like a big resolution bump. That's native 4K. Gave you Dixie Kong, gave you like a new mode to play. It's like this is a transformative upgrade that's free. And then a few weeks later, you get a paid Xenoblade X update, which has no new content. Like, they could have given us like a new party member or something, because there's a lot of them in X. But there was none of that. And then it just looks a hell of a lot worse. So I'm usually a frame rate over resolution person, but this isn't even resolution talking. It's just image quality, and what they've done to it is abysmal.
Yeah, it looks bad, and we've mentioned this in previous videos, but it looks like there's kind of a Vaseline filter or bad AI upscaling done to the textures. It's hard to resolve detail out in the distance when you're looking at the game. And if you know what the game looks like particularly well, it looks almost unrecognizable in places. So yeah. I just think that Nintendo, I don't know if they farmed this out to someone other than Monolith Soft or who actually developed the Switch 2 edition upgrade, but it just, in every conceivable way, looks worse. It may perform better, but it performs better at a cost that I think is far too much for most players. It certainly is for me.
Yeah. It's a difficult one too, because this is an old Wii U game. Came out in 2016. Yeah, 2015 in Japan even. So it's been a long time, like 14 years. And that's not right.
It's been 11
years. 11 years. Oh god, maths is hard. So like it's an old game. I imagine upgrading it is actually trickier than it sounds, but this is something they're selling, and it doesn't address any of the technical issues this game has. Like Xenoblade X has a lot of pop-in, very aggressive pop-in. Like sometimes you're standing like right next to a tree and it just changes into its full model. Like when you're right next to it, it would be nice just to lift that stuff out. Like just increase the LODs, just make everything look better, run better. But all they really did is boost the frame rate and then give you this terrible filter. If they patched it and took that filter out and changed nothing else, that would be a big update. Like just keeping it as it is, but keeping the frame rate boost, that would be great.
If you had kept the textures where they were, I think this would be much higher on the list than it is. It would probably be a B tier if they had just not messed with the actual visual fidelity and just boosted it to 60.
Yeah, and the thing that stings the most is I think this month, in a few weeks, this is getting a full-on retail release, so a physical release. And with the current one, like if you've upgraded from Switch 1 to the Switch 2 edition, you can just eject the upgrade pack and revert back to how it was. But if you're to play Xenoblade X Switch 2 edition, the physical cartridge on a Switch 2, you can't do that. Like you're stuck with it. The only way to play the standard Switch 1 edition is to play it on a Switch 1. So it's really unflexible, that physical version, and it's just stuck in a really poor state. So I really hope they fix it.
Yeah, me too. I really want them to fix this. I just I don't know that I have a ton of faith. I feel like they've probably moved on to the next thing, but I could be wrong. Like games like the GTA trilogy got updates years down the line. So I'm hopeful that Nintendo and Monolith Soft come back to the drawing board on this and fix the issues, because I would be happy to reevaluate this if they made some changes.
Yeah, and we're no doubt going to get more Switch 2 editions as time goes on. But just to reiterate our list, in D tier is Xenoblade Chronicles X. In C tier is Mario Party Jamboree and Animal Crossing Nintendo Switch 2 edition. In B tier, we have Breath of the Wild and Pokemon Legends ZA. In A tier, we've got Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Metroid Prime 4, and winning in S tier is Super Mario Bros. Wonder Nintendo Switch 2 edition, plus Meetup in Bella Bell Park. I think this reflects how I feel. There's nothing I really disagree on with you here, Steve. Like, this is pretty much how I feel about these games.
Yeah, I think that, it says something. I think Nintendo is largely doing the right thing with Switch 2 editions. I mean, four of 9 are in S and A tier. I think that's a good place to be, because considering I think B is like the baseline, this is good. And below that, I feel like it starts to become an issue. And only 2 of them are below the B level. And they're ones where you have very obvious complaints. So I think Nintendo's largely doing the right thing. I think that these are good looking. I'd love to see more games that reach that A level of quality. I think the S tier rightfully should only have a handful of games in it. Don't get me wrong, I'd love every Switch 2 edition to be S rank, but realistically, how many are you going to get native 4K with tons of new content? I just don't see that being the norm. But frankly, if they're even standard A or even B tier, I'm happy with that.
And while we didn't rank them, some of the free updates are better than many of these Switch 2 editions. So
yes,
Link's Awakening and Echoes of Wisdom, transformative. Bowser's Fury, transformative. Captain Toad with asymmetrical online through GameShare, cool as hell.
Yeah, I actually was upset when I played Bella Bell Park. My one complaint about Bella Bell Park is that when you play it in GameShare, people don't get their own camera, which I mean is fine. That's the same as you would get with playing it in the same room. But if I'm running too fast, my kids feel like they're left behind.
Yeah, that would have been cool to have.
Yeah, it would have been cool to have, but again, I can't fault it, for doing what every single Mario game has done. I would love to see more of that, though. Like you said, it changed Captain Toad.
Yeah, it made Captain Toad into you can play that in a totally new way now. Super cool. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and let us know what your rank would be in the comments below. We'll share the tier list as well in the description, so if you want to share that on social media, you can, and just make your own tier list. It can be yours. It's public domain now. But thank you, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.